Did you know that there are multiple other types of diabetes other than type 1 and type 2? And today we're going to be going over the 4 most common types of diabetes, obviously type 1 and type 2 being the most common you've heard of, but the other two we're going to be discussing, and make sure you stay to the end to learn about these because I guarantee some of you may be experiencing these types of diabetes and you don't even know it. So let's go over the common types, the ones that you've mostly heard of. Type 1 as an example. You see, type 1 is where your pancreas is no longer able to produce normal amounts of insulin. The job of the pancreas is to produce insulin, and that insulin then grabs onto your sugar and then essentially forces it into your cells because glucose is our energy and inside of our cells are essentially our engines. So if our sugar never reaches our cells, it'll just stay in our bloodstream and get excessively high and become very dangerous. But unless you're producing sufficient amount of insulin from the pancreas, then the sugars can go higher and higher and higher and can be very dangerous and cause cardiovascular disease and other types of problems as well. So insulin is very essential, and this is a common disease process due to younger individuals. So usually someone who's under 18 is most commonly going to be diagnosed with type 1. These are the individuals that you're seeing with the insulin pumps, and they need insulin injected every single day because their body, or their pancreas, I should say, no longer produces sufficient amount of insulin. So in type 1, this is usually an underlying autoimmune condition where that immune system is destroying, killing the pancreas, and the pancreas is no longer able to produce sufficient amount of insulin. Very dangerous situation, and usually pretty young individuals who get this, and they need to take insulin for the rest of their life. Now, type 2, one of the most common types of diabetic conditions, these are the individuals that are usually going to acquire diabetes. This usually happens later in life. Could be as early as the 20s, 30s, 40s, etc., etc. But these individuals eventually develop type 2 diabetes where their doctor is saying you need to take medications, things like metformin, glyburide, glipizide, Januvia, Ozempic, these types of medications that many individuals are taking, maybe you are as well. So as these things progress over time, the person eventually gets worse. That's why type 2 diabetes is called a progressive disease process. Things get worse with time because the underlying problem or cause of your diabetes is not what you typically think it is. You see, most people believe that type 2 diabetes is a blood sugar issue. The elevated sugars are the cause of their diabetic condition, and all they have to do is change their lifestyle. Eat better, exercise, lose weight, even take medication. And if they lower their sugars enough, they believe that they're going to get better and it's going to stop or reduce the risk of complications of diabetes. But that is not the truth whatsoever. So what I'm going to tell you is the main cause of diabetes is actually a cellular disease. You see, our cells have these little doors that open and close. And the doors are to allow the sugars to enter from the bloodstream into the cells because that's where our engines are. That's where our body functions. Think about this. Imagine if you put gas into the gas tank of your car and it never reached the engine. Where would your car go? Not very far, right? So the same thing happens in our body. The difference is we have trillions of these cells, and over time it takes a certain percentage of your cells to be damaged before you actually notice there's a problem going on. But eventually, as those cells damage and they're not able to open and close those doors, the sugar builds up in the bloodstream, and then one day you go see your doctor and they say, well, you have type 2 diabetes, change your diet, exercise, lose weight, take medication. Thinking that's going to be the solution, but the reality is it's only a management style because no one is identifying the specific cause of the cellular damage. Meaning something has broken down inside your body, something has occurred to stop and close those doors, and you're no longer able to allow those sugars to get into your cells. Unless you find out what that is, it's very challenging to reverse type 2 diabetes. This is what we specifically optimize and we help individuals. And if you want to learn more about how we help individuals reverse their type 2 diabetes, make sure you click the guide down below because this is going to help you to identify some of the underlying mechanisms for you to learn more about how and what is going on with your diabetes and what needs to be done to start the reversal process. Well, let's go into the next 2 types of diabetes that you probably have never heard of. The first one is called type 1.5. Now, what is type 1.5? Type 1.5 is also referred to as LADA, latent autoimmune disease diabetes. Essentially, what this means is that you have an underlying autoimmune condition. This could be any type of autoimmune condition. This could be an autoimmune to the pancreas. It could be an autoimmune to your thyroid called Hashimoto's. It could be to your joints called rheumatoid arthritis. it could be lupus, etc., etc. So you have an autoimmune component where your immune system is attacking, destroying, and killing the tissues of your body, and you have the insulin resistance, the type 2 component. So not only do you have the cellular disease, but you also have an underlying autoimmune. So this is a much more aggressive, a much more problematic situation. And if you're only going to fight this type of condition with lifestyle, good luck. It's never going to work, because the reality is whatever mechanisms that are driving your immune system to attack your body are the same ones that are driving your cellular disease as well. And unless you identify what those are, it's going to be very challenging to get the results you're looking for. So the good news is in our office, we do comprehensive testing to identify these things, to really come up with a real solution, a customized solution to address the real underlying mechanism. Now, the last one we're going to discuss is a very important one as well. This is called type 3 diabetes. Now, what is type 3 diabetes? Type 3 diabetes is known as Alzheimer's and dementia, because we know individuals with type 2, they're already at risk of developing type 3. And why is this? Well, what is your brain made of? It's made of cells. And remember, type 2 diabetes is a cellular disease. So if the cellular damage is happening faster inside your brain, then what happens over time? You start to get downsizing of the brain. That leads to conditions like dementia and Alzheimer's. This is very scary stuff. So this is very problematic things that are happening. Many of you are probably experiencing some early signs of brain fog, memory loss, short-term memory loss, and you're thinking, oh, it's just because of my age, or maybe you're being told that by your doctors. The reality is this could be the early stages of type 3 diabetes, especially if you're dealing with type 2 diabetes. So make sure you really understand and you get a full diagnosis of what's really going on, because there are multiple types of diagnoses for diabetes. As a reminder for today, we discussed 4 different types. There's others, by the way, but I don't have time to go over all of them today. We have type 1, which is an autoimmune disease to the pancreas. Type 2, which is a cellular disease. We have type 1.5, which is an autoimmune condition. And then we also have type 3 diabetes, which is Alzheimer's and dementia. So if this scenario is starting to really come to fruition for you, and you're starting to get a little more, hey, what do I got to do about this? And you want to take control of your life, make sure you watch this next upcoming video right here, because I go into a lot more detail about what we specifically do to help individuals with type 2 diabetes. All right, we'll see you soon. Take care.